If one thing is for sure, people love a good conspiracy theory. 50 years ago, a wild rumor spread across America. It was right after the release of Abbey Road. The rumor was that Paul McCartney had died. Crazy, you say?
Is Paul McCartney dead? Some people believe that he is. You might recall the wild rumors that spread across America over 10 years ago. Most people have come to conclusions of their own, generally that Paul is alive and well, touring, recording, and otherwise enjoying a quiet life on a farm in Scotland. Others continue to pursue the idea that Paul McCartney died in a car crash in November of 1966, was replaced by a look-alike, carefully groomed in his musical style to match that of the deceased Beatle.
I mean, that is the joke. We used to say we're the only people who never saw the Beatles.
I know, my gosh. Can you imagine that?
Nobody sees us and we need to get killed.
I thought that I scotched the rumours in London with various announcements. I don't think that you get any one of those, of them, or me, to categorically state that they will never appear in public again. But I don't think that it will be in the concept that we've known previously.
You said that their manager was already researching doubles. Why would he be doing that?
Yeah, good question. Just as to substitute for photo shoots or any time they couldn't get there, and it's normal practice.
Is Paul McCartney alive or dead?
There arose a rumor that Paul was really not Paul, but an imposter.
The theory on Paul's death says he was out alone in his Aston Martin. He crashed and was decapitated. A Paul McCartney look-alike has been impersonating him ever since. The fans say they can prove it in the songs, in the jackets to the record albums, and in other places. Clues by the dozen are lurking.
Well, what is the most unusual legend or rumor you've heard about yourself?
Oh God, I don't know. I can't think, actually. There've been a lot. I really can't think. Sorry.
The Beatles, at least to this fan, were unlike today's rock groups. The Beatles had a spiritual quality.
I don't want to have to sell my soul again, as it were, to have a hit record.
I used to be a fan myself. I used to go around the stage doors.
And speaking of Beatles, when MTV asked a poll sampling of 800 people between the ages of 16 and 29 last month whether they could name the 4 members of the Beatles, only 27% could.
I'm Ringo Starr, as if you didn't know.
When the game changed to a money game instead of a music game, it was one we didn't have a framework to exist in. This is my theory. I think we're not out of our depth, but it was a new game.
Anyway, the first record that came out after the lull of activity from Apple Records was Strawberry Fields Forever, which I understand Strawberry Fields is a graveyard on a hillside in Liverpool.
In Strawberry Fields Forever, listen closely to the end of the fade-out. You can make out the sound of John saying, "I buried Paul."
About the same time as Strawberry Fields was the Sgt. Pepper album. The cover of this, as well as some of the songs on it, is very interesting. If you look at the minute detail which is on there, you can find that the Beatles are actually gathered around what looks like a grave.
On the grave.
Yes, it is a grave.
Inside the cover, McCartney's supposed look-alike is wearing an armband with the letters OPD.
That may mean officially pronounced dead.
We did Sgt. Pepper, and we said we'll send the record on tour.
On the back cover, George's finger points to the words Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock because that's when Paul was officially pronounced dead.
All clues are in the album.
And even the innocent good morning tells us
nothing to do to save his life.
Within You, Without You says life flows on within you and without you. The Beatles went on without Paul.
Paul. I'm not Paul. You don't want a fake.
Though it should be pointed out that if the name Billy Shears is broken up, it could read Billy's Here.
In another song on the LP, Lovely Rita, are the lines, I took her home, I nearly made it.
At this time, there were many rumours going round about Paul not being Paul, but being dead. A lot of myths, a lot of rumours had come about. It's amazing to me, really, about Pepper. You know, the fact that Paul is on the back of the cover and not looking at the camera as the others are. And I had phone calls day and night. Please tell me Paul isn't dead. Sometimes when Paul was sitting next to me, and I got very fed up with it. But that cover sort of lent more fuel to that. That John was dressed as an undertaker and so on, all that rubbish.
There's been clues, like, is it Sergeant Pepper, you play it backwards?
Yeah.
A final mystery on this album appears on Is Another Groove. Let's play it backwards.
There are certain things on the Magical Mystery Tour album as well, visually and music-wise.
The Magical Mystery Tour album contains a 24-page booklet, which contains some startling clues. The top half of the photo on page 6 has a sign which says the best way to go is by M&D Company. M&D Company is a funeral company in London. There's a drawing of Paul, and the L from Hill continues and splits Paul's head.
McCartney's double is sitting above a sign which reads, I was you.
No, that's not true. That's a rumour.
We've got a spy in England who sends them the tapes.
What is Apple, John?
It's a company we're setting up which involves records, films, electronics, which make records and films work, and what's it called, manufacturing?
Do you think trouble or... No, I think excellent. Apple.
Well, the fact that it was no longer the happy-go-lucky fivesome with me that it used to be. There was another person in the studio, so it was uncomfortable.
Evidently, there had been this dispute about Yoko conceiving the idea for the cover of the White Album, and Paul brings in the artist who actually worked on the White Album cover, who comes in and says, no, that wasn't Yoko, that was all Paul.
And she said, well, don't do me any favors, you know, don't do it out of pity or don't sympathy. I don't want that, you know, I don't want charity.
Fans kept looking for clues on the White Album. On the track Revolution number 9, play it backwards, you can hear the words saying, turn me on, dead man.
Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man.
And I remember sitting around with Burroughs, you know, to do little tapes and backward, crazy stuff.
Okay, let's do it.
Glass Onion, looking up at the tulips to see how the other half lives. I told you about the walrus. The walrus was Paul, the walrus symbol for death. He and I are as close as can be. Put that together.
The walrus was a bad omen to Viking hunters, for if they saw a dead walrus at the start of their journeys, they would turn back because of its negative symbolism.
Well, here's another clue for you, Mom. The walrus was Paul.
And was this one that you all wrote, or was this a...
No, it's Paul's line.
This is Paul's line. Fine.
As far as I know, you know.
Nobody's told you otherwise.
I'm still the walrus.
Can I ask you a question?
Tell me, have you heard about the rumors about Paul?
It's true. How could it be? I mean, you know, there's no way it could be true.
What do you think that maybe Americans, because they're further away?
You know.
But you're living here, and there's a certain, you see them walk in and out.
Right.
But Americans hardly ever see them, so they're more spiritual.
Well, they shouldn't do anything like that. I mean, if they could prove it, I mean, it'd be one thing, but how can they prove it?
What's it like with these fans outside Paul? At first, it's murder, because, you know, it looks as though they're going to tear you apart.
In the top left corner of this photo, what is believed to be an autopsy photo of Paul resides. Hospitals usually clean bodies that have been involved in accidents before they send them off to be buried.
I think it's amazing that you actually played bass better after you died, which was really impressive. But the other...
It's the Lord.
It's never been done before, yeah.
This is news from American Contemporary Radio, and I'm Don Gardner in New York. Here's the latest on the Paul McCartney affair. We asked Richard DeLello of the Beatle record company in London this morning if Paul is okay.
Yes, he is. He is alive and well and unconcerned about rumors of his death. He figures that if he were dead, he would in any case be the last to know.
Their next album release was Yellow Submarine, which was based on the animated feature.
It's all in the mind, you know.
Even the animated Paul cannot escape an eerie hand that seems to hover over him on album pictures.
Is there any place on earth where people do not recognize you, where you can walk the street without a bodyguard or Mr. Baker? Or,
They had a fella on a trolley and they pushed him in like a cupboard or
Yeah, he was the body, wasn't he?
He was just like a body, that they were going to use. And they did something. They were supposed to be in the year 2100 and something. And they went back to 1969, January, focused in on the M1 on this car and made him crash so that and then they somehow take his mind or whatever it is and transplant it into this new
into the body they put in.
Diary entry, August 1969, Tuesday the 5th. Abbey Road is title so far for new album. Did the Sergeant live in Abbey Road? Sergeant Pepper is alive and well and living in Abbey Road.
In 1969, there were rumors that Paul McCartney was dead.
It was the cover of Abbey Road that started it all. As you look at the four Beatles, you'll notice that Paul is the only one out of step. To draw attention to Paul.
Paul wearing black and barefooted as corpses are prepared in Italy.
People said because you weren't wearing shoes.
I wasn't wearing shoes.
On the Abbey Road cover.
Yeah.
Take the photograph for Abbey Road with me with a beard and looking as I do today, and Paul looking as he does today, walking across the road when he'd been dead since Pepper.
It says 28 if on that license plate. Now, Paul's next birthday, he would have been 28 years old if he survived. 3 Beatles. Crack in the S, something wrong. Somebody's died. Okay, now Abbey Road, in the word Abbey Road. If we look at the O, there is a little chip out of the O at the very bottom. Now, just like Sgt. Pepper, Paul is the only one in the band without an O in his name.
Hold the album some distance away and observe for elbow. What will appear is the image of Paul McCartney's profile.
And it's not a bad title, Abbey Road. To us, it was kind of just the name of a studio, but I thought if you take it out of context, it kind of sounds like Monastery Lane, Abbey Road. It's got a certain...
In Cold Turkey by the Plastic Ono Band, there's a phrase that reads, "I'm alive again. Get me out of this hell."
The final album of new Beatle material was Let It Be. The title itself suggests that perhaps the search for clues and hidden meanings should stop when all should just let it be. But due to the nature of the very album itself, it's very difficult. To begin with, it's the only Beatle LP framed in black. All 4 Beatles are on the cover, but only Paul's picture has a blood red background. The others are white.
The whole story in a nutshell is this guy, Alan Klein.
John actually had Alan Klein and Yoko in the room, suggesting lyrics during writing sessions. In his song How Do You Sleep, the line, "The only thing you did was yesterday," was apparently Alan Klein's suggestion. And John said, "Hey, great, put that in." I like kind of looking at reference books, his history books, for often for like old symbols. So on the cover of Egypt Station, there's an onyx, and so I like that image.
Do you know who took that photo of Paul McCartney?
I am actually the photographer's brother.
You are?
Yeah, it was taken by my brother, Mike McCartney.
That makes you Paul McCartney.
Yeah, it makes me the winner. Yay!
While I was researching a little bit, I noticed his eyebrows. I don't know if you picked this up, but like if you look at a picture of him from like 1964 compared to like, 67, like his eyebrows look significantly different.
Their albums showed no close-ups of Paul until the White Album, 2 years later. Also, there was a new scar on Paul's upper lip. His eyebrows became thinner. He grew a few inches taller. Dr. Harry M. Truby, in a Life magazine story, took voice sonograms of Paul singing the line, "All My Troubles" from Yesterday, and compared it with his voice on Hey Jude. He claimed they were suspiciously different. There is one last fact that may shed some more light. It comes from Beatle Monthly number 43, the official Beatle fan club magazine, which was run by the Beatles themselves. This was published in February of 1967, 2.5 years before the Paul is Dead rumors began.
You're getting hot, Jack.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a good time, and I don't think I've had my last gasp. So, I mean...
We've got to try and prove to ourselves that there's life after the Beatles.
When the Beatles broke up, the talk was that, like, I was the villain. John and I didn't really get on well. I kind of bought into it, because when you're called it enough, you start thinking, well, maybe I was, Did I know John? Were we friends?
I no longer believe in myth, and Beatles is another myth, I don't believe in it. The dream's over. It's over, and we gotta, well, I have, anyway, personally, gotta get down to so-called reality.
Thank you. Good night.